Miley Cyrus had an interesting interview with Monica Lewinsky this week where she almost figured out where she went wrong in life. Miley was saying that earlier in her career, when she was posing nude and dancing around in a thong, that men didn't want to date her, and that made her feel bad. But then she did a bunch of therapy and got over the shame she felt about those decisions, and now it's all good. Miley, you were so close. It's true that when people are young, they make mistakes. I made plenty in my 20s that I wouldn't do again at 35. But as a person in the public eye, what Miley should be telling young women is not to scandalize themselves in the first place. Not that they need to do a bunch of introspective therapy and get over this shame. Miley has the benefit of being a multimillionaire, so it's a bit easier for a man to overlook her past than it will be for someone to overlook the $12.49 that you make from your OnlyFans. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I have two topics that we are going to get into today. I didn't mean to do this, by the way, but both of them involve famous pop singers. I didn't realize that as I was doing it, but now I've noticed that both of them are about pop singers. We're going to talk about Miley Cyrus and this interview we hinted to in the intro, and then we're going to talk about Dua Lipa and her banned book library, as well as give a little send-off to Lindsey Graham right at the end. But before we get into that, my favorite comment from last week comes from Carol Rakovich, who said, quote, "Well, this resonated with me, a very base take on family ties. Thank you." End quote. Full disclosure here, Carol's actually my aunt, so I got based family takes and good props from the family. That's good. My video last week was about the importance of basically just being nice to your family and prioritizing them and trying to make time for them. I have told people this, and I mean this. I am rather confrontational in my life. But I don't like to argue with people. Not really. I'll argue, I'll debate, I'll have fun, but I don't get in fights. I don't fight with people. There's no point. I'm not going to get angry and get mad and argue with somebody about something for real. And I'm definitely not going to do that with my family because it's just a waste of mental energy. I don't care if anybody believes what I believe in the world. I really don't. I'm not trying to sit here and say everyone needs to conform to my views about anything. You believe whatever you want. As long as you don't bother me, I don't care what you believe. The reason why we have this show, why I have this show, why I like to talk about things, is because I like to talk about ideas. I enjoy it. I enjoy debating people. I enjoy the back and forth. I don't even mind people being a little rowdy in the comments, but it's not really to make everyone agree with me. My family certainly doesn't agree with me on everything. I wouldn't expect them to. But I'm never, ever going to be one of those people. If you're one of those, and if you're one of them, this is a mistake, who says, well, you voted for somebody I don't like, therefore you're a bad person. Nope, sorry, doesn't work that way. You don't see this Republican to Democrat, but you see this a lot, Democrat to Republican, where the old saying goes, Republicans think Democrats are wrong and Democrats think Republicans are evil. This is very true. A lot of people have disowned their parents, or you won't go to Thanksgiving because they're Trump supporters, blah, blah, blah. It's just ridiculous. It's silly, and people need to grow up. Anyway, thank you for the comment. I always appreciate any engagement. I'm glad you liked the episode because the episode is basically about, it's really just a hippie kind of message. Just love everybody. ELE, baby. Everybody love everybody. That's our motto around here. Anyway, thank you again. Let's get into topic one. Miley Cyrus almost got it. She was so close, guys. I watched this interview. I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm not going to pretend that I watched an entire interview, an hour-long conversation of Miley Cyrus and Monica Lewinsky. But this clip was going around the internet earlier this week. And I did try and watch before and after the parts that are relevant. I was trying to see, did this get clipped out of context? What's the takeaway here that Miley Cyrus had from this situation, and why was everybody talking about it? And I want to play the clip, and then we're going to get into it. So let's pull that up real quick here. Okay. So listen to this, and then we'll get into it.
Lost everything during that time in my personal life because of the choices I was making professionally. You know, if I kept dressing or acting a certain way, my relationships fell apart. No one wanted to date me because they didn't want to be with a woman. That sexual expression part was not for them. It was like shared with the world. So like guys, when I would try to date when I was dating or who I was engaged at the time, that didn't work out because I was sharing a part of myself that men wanted to be saved for them only. And the fact that I would, pose nude or dance in very little clothes or show my body was making them feel like I was taking something away that was meant to be for them. So I would have really hard times dating. And it was really hard. It was really hard.
Okay. So that is the part. Actually, as I'm doing this, I actually am curious about something. Give me 1 second here. I want to see. Okay. I was curious if we're going to talk about something else, but I actually didn't look at the comments on this video. And okay. Anyway, I just was curious about something. I'm going to bring something up in a moment, and I wanted to see if YouTube was the same way. It is not. So this is the clip that was going around of Miley Cyrus. And there's a number of reasons. A lot of conservative commentators were talking about this. And she really, in the interview, when I watched before and after, when I tried to look at the parts that she was talking about this idea of public shame and her dating life and all this stuff, I was thinking to myself, I don't think that she learned the correct message. I don't think that she learned the right lesson from this experience, because it seems to me as though she is believing the comments that really men are the problem. It's insecure men who are the problem. And it's not a woman being free with her sexuality. It's really the problem of the entire male population, that they didn't want to date Miley Cyrus. That seems to be the takeaway from most of the people in the comments. The relationships between men and women in the last 60 years have changed more than at any point in human history. Because throughout human history, basically it went like this. There was a man, there was a woman, they got together, they had kids, they stayed together, that was it. In some cases, in some cultures, maybe the man had multiple women, but in almost no instance ever did a woman have multiple men. I'm not saying men should have multiple women. I'm just saying that you never see the reverse. Basically, most of human history, in most places, a man and woman form this monogamous bond, and that's it. And we can argue about what that means, and I think we will, now that I'm saying that. I think we should go back into it. Why did this become the way that human beings operate in every culture across the world? Because the history of sexuality is one where you are making a trade. You can look at this in other species, but this is the human beings. This is what happens. Women trade access to sex and procreation with a man for protection and resources. That's it. That is the simplistic version of human sexuality explained in 30 seconds. Men, in return for protection and resources, they ask for monogamy to ensure that the children that are born in this relationship are their offspring. That is the entire history of human sexuality. Every different aspect of that is just a shade of this. Everything that we think of right now today is just a copy of a copy of a copy of this. That's the reason why all of marriage exists, is because of this. It's not a property transaction. It's nothing else that we can go into. It's not what is happening here. What is happening is that you are making a trade. It's always been that case. The idea of romantic love plays some factor in modern relationships, but historically, it has been a transaction. And you might have affection, you might have feelings for each other, but that was always the transaction. And you can see this in primates. You can see this in bonobos especially. You can see that they trade sex for resources. That's just the way it is. Chimpanzees do the same thing. But this is the evolution of human sexuality. So when you sit there and we talk about how, well, you shouldn't be ashamed of your past, I would say that in the last 60 years, when we've changed 100,000 years of human evolution and human sexuality, when we've tried to change that in 60 years' time, I'm telling you, we're doing it wrong. It's arguable that one of the worst thing that's ever happened to women is the birth control pill. And I know that that has a lot of positive benefits to get off of the mammalian reproductive cycle, to just say every time you have sex, you're not going to have a child. This has a lot of benefits for women. Hey, this is great. You can plan your life a little bit more. That's great. Hey, great positives. The downside has been dramatic, though, because the downside of the birth control pill has been levels of unhappiness in women that we have never seen in recorded history. Partly because they have been sold the lie that you can do everything in the world, that you can have a career, that you can have a family, that you'll be just as satisfied going to the widget factory and working 60 hours a week that you would as raising a family. This has not been borne out in any social science that I've ever seen, that women who wind up old and childless are as happy as women who wind up with families. Nothing bears that out. In fact, almost every piece of data that you can find that will say that women who prioritize their career over their family or who wind up unmarried and childless at an old age, all of them regret their choice. And I mean this, almost 100% of them in some studies say they regret it. That is a crazy number. You never see that number in almost any survey you'll find on any social. Anytime you see 100%, you go, this is crazy. So they've been sold this lie, and the idea is that women can act like men, and they're going to be as happy as their male counterparts. If I put a man, I give him a harem, and I say, "Hey, man, you can have this 100 women harem, and you can go back and forth. You can just have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, and live your life however you want." A man would go, "Hey, this is great." If you do that with a woman, they're not as happy. And again, we're speaking of averages. Maybe there's someone who would. But what you find is a direct correlation. And we can't say correlation causation, I know. But we do have a pretty strong correlation. The more men a woman sleeps with, the less satisfied she is with her life. That's a direct. The more unhappy you are, the more sexual partners you have. This is the opposite for most men. Most men would do better to probably sleep with less people, but it doesn't have the negative impact on their emotional satisfaction as their female counterparts. And part of this has to do with the bonding hormones that women experience in sex. So, for example, when a woman, we're going to get sexual here. I'm sorry, there's no way around it. When a woman climaxes, the hormones that have to do with bonding they spike, they go up. You feel more paired with somebody when a woman has an orgasm. The exact opposite is true of men. When a man has an orgasm, all of those things, the chemicals that we would associate with bonding, they drop to zero. This is why men have a lot of sexual regret. They're led around by their genitals like a magnet. And then the second that they finish, it falls off and they go, oh my God, what am I doing here? I wind up in a place and I have no idea how I even got here. It's 3 days later. I haven't thought of anything else. So men and women are not the same. I know we've been sold this weird line that they are, but they're not. And the unfortunate fact is that women currently perpetuate this stuff. They perpetuate this culture and they want to build her up. I have an example of this because when I pulled up this video, initially it popped up on the feminism Reddit tab. And I was looking at the comments under this Miley Cyrus clip, and it's just things like this. Do do do. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Men gain status by possessing a woman. The harder to tame, the bigger the ego when they do cage her. It's never about her. It's how to make that him. How it makes him look to other men in the hierarchy. Men are exhausting with their bullshit. Men are so insecure. Ew. Insecure men just want to shrink women in their relationships to catapult their egos to feel good about themselves. These are the comments. Other women in the comments of the video. Women perpetuate this stuff because they go with their snap, snap, yes, queen. Yes, girl. All right, you're doing it. Live your life. Be free. No shame. Do your stuff. All you're doing is feeding into this unhappiness. Miley Cyrus is telling you she was unhappy. She felt uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable going to the house of the parents of someone she was dating because they were going to prejudge her. And your answer is, well, people shouldn't judge people. And my answer is you should behave in a way that when you go, you don't worry about if someone's going to respect you or not because you behave like a respectable adult. It's the same thing we've seen in this modern culture. Now, 10 years ago in my 20s, I'll say I was much more open to the idea. There's a book I have. What is his name? Christopher Ryan, maybe? What is that book called? Hold on. Sorry. Oh, what is it called? Okay. Yeah, I couldn't. I was trying to remember the name of it. So there's a book back on this shelf. Very good book. It's worth the read if you have time. It's called by Christopher Ryan. It's called Sex at Dawn, and it is a detailed anthropology of human sexuality and evolution. It's a great book. I really liked it. When I was in my 20s, I read this book. And I came up with the idea, or I had the idea that, okay, it makes a lot of sense to me. The idea that human beings aren't built for monogamy. There's lots of evidence to suggest that in the past, we were not monogamous creatures. And you say, okay, it makes sense. And so I say, all right, well, I was open to the idea of sort of either polyamory or open relationships, allowing the door to crack a little. And maybe, you have to mess around or whatever the case may be. I was really open to this. And I said, okay, it's good that people are going to explore this and people are going to be able to figure out what maybe is the next step in human sexual evolution. And in the last 5 years, I'll say, my thoughts on this have changed back entirely because all of a sudden I realized something, which is that it may be true that in history, bonobos are more promiscuous than their male counterparts. It may be true that the the fact that women can have multiple orgasms or the shape of the male genitalia, it may be true that some of these things hint towards the fact that people used to have sex with multiple people. Okay, maybe this is true. In the 10,000 years of recorded history that we have for human beings, the idea that all of a sudden we say, oh, wait, we figured it out better. I've learned the idea, you always talk about Chesterton's fence, this idea that we've come to something. We don't understand it, but we don't know why it's there. Let's tear it down. And the idea really is that we should understand why it's there. Well, maybe there's a reason that monogamy seems to be the default setting for every culture that exists on the planet. And we can point to some and say, well, this culture, they practice polygamy, or the Mormons here practice polygamy, or whatever the case may be. This random indigenous tribe in the Amazon actually has a matriarchy. Okay, let's just say for most of societies through most of recorded history, monogamy has been the way. I realize that I actually don't think I'm going to be the person equipped to change the system that the entire collective minds of human history have set up before me. I'm not that smart. You're not that smart. If you think you're that smart and then you go, oh, well, my polyamorous thruple is actually working super duper well. Hey, great guy. But chances are that's actually not the best way to live your life. And we know that because all of recorded human history did it this one way. And when you go outside of this, when you deviate from the system, it's not because you're a genius. It's because you're a fool who doesn't understand that in the continuum of human existence, you're not going to be the abnormality that makes it better. You're just not. And so we've watched this cultural degradation where people just feel the need to experiment and be open and scandalize themselves on a way that it's just unprecedented in human history. The idea that every woman feels comfortable just wearing a bathing suit with her entire ass out. Okay, hey, I'm not going to mind. I'm a guy, whatever. I'll look. I'm not going to pretend I don't. But at the same time, maybe don't do that. Like a, a a benefit of the doubt that you can give to Muslim societies is that at least they kind of understand modesty. They take it too far. I don't like the hijab. I don't like the burqa. The burqa is ridiculous. This idea we're going to subjugate women to put them in a burlap sack. I find that incredibly offensive. However, modesty used to be a virtue and it's completely fallen off. And so the lesson that Miley Cyrus should be teaching young women is maybe you should have a little bit of modesty. You're not famous. Miley Cyrus has the benefit of scandalizing herself and making millions of dollars. When you do it on Instagram or Facebook for free, you're living a life that you just don't understand is bad for you. Because this idea that it doesn't mean anything. You can post pictures of your ass or your tits on the internet and it's going to be fine. Okay. I mean, you could do whatever you want. I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to do this. I'm saying you have to understand that this is not optimizing your life for you. You think it is because the culture you're swimming in is that it's ubiquitous. Everyone around you is doing the same thing. You don't understand that it's wrong. We used to understand that. And this is the lesson that Miley Cyrus should be teaching to young women, that you don't need to live like this. I did these things when I was young. It made me feel bad. I've changed in my 30s. Look, she's wearing a freaking turtleneck dress in this interview. she's still a good-looking lady in her turtleneck dress. You don't need to be naked on the internet to be attractive. You just don't. And I wish that that was the message that was coming away with this, but it doesn't appear like it is. It doesn't seem like it is. Monica Lewinsky, why is she famous? We all know why she's famous. We don't need to talk about that. But we know, why is she famous? She has a podcast now that's built on the back. Well, I shouldn't say on the back. I should say that was built on her knees. And okay, she was a young kid. She did something with the most powerful man in the entire world. Okay, I mean, a lot of people would do stupid things when they're 21 for a lot less. I'll tell you that. It's for some bum down the street who's got to borrow your car to go to the grocery store. So, the president, hey, whatever. I get it. But at the same time, does she wish she could change that? Does she wish that wasn't the reason that she was famous in the world? Probably. Because it is. It's embarrassing and it is shameful. And shame is not a bad thing. Shame teaches you that you're doing something wrong. There's a reason why you don't just walk down the street and, play a little pocket pool. And it's not just because it's illegal. It's because it's a shameful thing. You shouldn't be doing that in front of people that you're not intimate with. I can't go to the public pool and be like, well, this jet feels a little nice, let's see what it feels. No, there's a reason why it's illegal. There's a reason why you would feel this if you're a normal person. You feel this level of shame because you should feel bad about it. Being shameless, being easily scandalized, or just completely oblivious to the fact that you're doing something wrong. These are the hallmarks of a culture in decline, and we have been there for too long. And again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be some paragon of virtue. I've done a lot of bad things. The reason I don't run for office, right? I'm not going to run for office because all you'd have is a bunch of women from when I was in my 20s saying I was a jerk. Okay, fine. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't. I'm not going to pretend that I haven't been promiscuous. Fine, whatever. I'm not saying that I sit above you. I'm not sitting in judgment. This is to say the people who are coming after us need to recognize that this is not a good way to live. If I could go back, if I could snap my fingers and I could change a lot of things, there would be so many things I would change. I don't live with regret in the way that I just sit here and mope about the past, but I would still recognize that some of my actions were bad. Some of them would be changed. And if I could make it so that I didn't act like a jerk to some people when I was 24, 25, I would have done way better. But that's where we live. We live and we grow. And what we should be trying to teach, if you're in a position where you've learned from those mistakes, is not that, well, you're going to make mistakes and then in your 30s you can go to therapy and it'll be better. Is that maybe you just don't make the mistakes. Hey, say, I did this bad thing. I was a bad role model. Be better than me. Miley Cyrus should be doing that. I don't feel like she did in this interview, which is why we're talking about it. Anyway, let's move on. We're going to talk about this other pop star, Dua Lipa. Topic 2, Dua Lipa's banned books that are not really banned. Who is Dua Lipa? You may know her, you may not. She is a pop singer like Miley Cyrus. She's pretty darn famous, so it's possible you know her. Maybe you don't. Doesn't really matter. Dua Lipa was in the news this week because she started a library inside of a library. I think it's in collaboration with a library, but Dua Lipa's library within a library in Portugal. And we'll play the video here real quick, and then we will get into it. Give me 1 second here. All right. So here's the video. We'll watch this in its entirety. Oh my God, this is terrible.
Hi, I'm Dua Lipa, and this is the Manifesto.
I don't know why that's so skinny.
A partnership between the Service 95 Book Club and Livraria Lello Porto. Livraria Lello has been a source of inspiration for over a century. Dreamers, radicals, and artists have passed through these doors. Works of activism, reimagining, and dissent have found a home on these shelves. There is no more fitting place for the Manifesto Library to live. In this library, you will find 100 books that ask questions or have been questioned. The collection is organised into 4 chapters: power, control, voice, and memory. You're probably not surprised to hear that George Orwell's Animal Farm was considered anti-communist propaganda and banned in the USSR by Stalin. But maybe you are more surprised to learn that 1984 was considered pro-communist and banned by a parents group in 1981 in Jackson, Florida. A book removed from a shelf becomes a decision about the questions that are asked. Whose stories are carried forward, and which lives are believed to be worth understanding. So take your time, look closely, and decide for yourself what belongs on these shelves.
Okay. So she started a banned book library in Portugal. Now, this is silly. It just is. I mean, it's silly, silly stuff because of these banned books, none of them are banned. And you know how I know this? Because I can go on Amazon right now and order any one of those books in the United States. Now, it's true. I couldn't order some of those books in other countries. But in the United States, we could order any of them. And she didn't film this in Portuguese. She didn't film this video in Spanish. It's filmed in English. And the reason it's filmed in English is because she is doing a message to English-speaking people, specifically Americans, about her banned books. There are 100 books in this mini library. Most of them sold everywhere in the world. I actually feel bad. I went through the entire list, and I've only read 15 of these books. I mean, some of them I'm sure are good. Some of them are not. I'm sure some of them I have absolutely no interest in reading. But here we go. Take a look at the list. We're just going to go through it really quick, and then I'll probably talk about some as we go through it. But here's the list of the books. It's divided into sections, different sections. This is from Vogue. This is the list. So here are the books. Ooh, look at that. It's kind of a cool library. Power. You got all these. I mean, I don't know a lot of these. In Cold Blood, that's a good one. You have 1984, which everyone has read. The Crucible, The Grapes of Wrath, which I didn't realize that book was banned. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, maybe some, but yeah, that's a good one. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, whatever her last name is. Then you got this Control, Clockwork Orange. That book's impossible to read. People say they read it. I don't believe anyone's ever read it. That I couldn't get past the first couple pages. I tried because that movie's interesting, but I couldn't do it. It's so hard to read with that accent. Animal Farm, everyone's read Animal Farm. Same with The Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Again, that's one I didn't know was banned. I love that book. It's great. The Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood, The Hunger Games. So these two in particular, just so silly. These are probably two of the highest selling books of all time. Just absolutely two of the biggest books ever. And they're on this list of the banned books. The Trial, Franz Kafka, everyone's read that. Genderqueer, we're going to talk about this one specifically because that one actually has been banned some places, and we'll talk about why. There's another one on here, The Satanic Verses, The Metamorphosis. Where is the one I'm looking for? Well, anyway, you see the list. I mean, a lot of good books on there, a lot of books I've never heard of, have no interest in reading. The reason why this is becoming an issue today, and I find it funny, is because we have this conversation about banning books when it's the right-wing school board in Jackson, Mississippi, who wants to ban a book. But what's funny is that for the past, I don't know, decade or so, when we started this idea of cancel culture and we started talking about DEI, we started doing all these things, 2010, what you saw a lot all over the place was the left was banning books. And the left was banning books for ridiculously obtuse reasons. So they were doing things like, hold on here, I have a note I want to pull up. So they were doing things like banning To Kill a Mockingbird. And they would ban To Kill a Mockingbird. So the Burbank Unified School District in California, they banned To Kill a Mockingbird. Why did they ban To Kill a Mockingbird? Because it uses the N-word. And because it centers on a white savior and it tells the story of black characters from a white perspective. So they banned To Kill a Mockingbird. That's not a right-wing thing. That was a left-wing thing. The Burbank Unified California, blah, blah, blah. They banned To Kill a Mockingbird. They did the same thing with this, Huck Finn. They said, well, Huck Finn uses the N-word. Can't have Huck Finn in there. Okay, guys, yes. Is the message of To Kill a Mockingbird that racism is a good thing? If you read To Kill a Mockingbird, do you come away and go, yeah, Atticus Finch is the bad guy. Racism seems cool. No, you dorks. The idea of To Kill a Mockingbird is that racism is terrible. It's one of the best anti-racist books of all time. Or if you don't want to read a book, watch the movie with Gregory Peck when he does that scene at the end where he's given his closing statements. Oh my gosh. If it doesn't bring a tear to your eye to hear him talk about this, and Atticus Finch as a character, they don't like him. They say, oh, he's a white savior. Yes, He's a white man risking his life to defend a black man from a false charge of rape. He is a hero trying to do the right thing, and it doesn't work. But anyway, the idea, it used to be that the left was banning books like To Kill a Mockingbird, and then it became the right. And it became the right, and now it's a problem. Now everyone wants to talk about it. Now every pop star is going to open their little library of books that aren't really banned, but just are banned in the elementary school classwork. What I hate the most about this thing, it's cool. You want to have a thing and you want to say, these are books I think are important. These are books that challenge things. Fine. Calling it the banned book thing is weird because none of them are really banned. You can get any copy of anything. A real banned book collection would be like Mein Kampf and Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto, the Unabomber, or the Anarchist Cookbook. Those would be things that you really have a hard time getting a hold of. But it's not The Handmaid's Tale. The book is banned, but it's the largest TV show on television. The Hunger Games. Oh, the book is banned, but we made all these movies. They're actually doing a prequel now because the movies made so much money. The movies catapulted Jennifer Lawrence to one of the biggest stars on the planet, but the book is banned. It's just silly stuff because some school board somewhere probably pulled it for some silly reason. But it elevates all these things to the same. So it has the Satanic Verse up there. The Satanic verses are a real banned book. I'm pretty sure today you still can't get it in 30 to 40 countries in the world. The Satanic Verses was so banned that the author, Salman Rushdie, had a fatwa issued against him. He has to live with 24-hour security for 30 years, and they still managed to stab him and take one of his eyes at a event he did a couple years ago. That's a banned book. And it's not the right wing who's doing it, guys. Those are the Muslims who are doing that. That's that weird thing that we like to pretend doesn't exist on the left, where we say, well, the Muslims aren't bad, except when they want to ban the Satanic Verses and kill the author. Or the second sex. The second sex was banned in a lot of places. The Catholic Church banned the second sex because it said things that they didn't approve of. I would ban the second sex, but only because I think it is a god-awful book that is written so terribly. I want to read a paragraph from the second sex so you can understand why I would ban it. Here's a quote from the book. The woman who is shut up in eminence endeavors to hold man in that prison also. Thus the prison will become interchangeable with the world, and women will no longer suffer from being confined there. Mother, wife, sweethearts are the jailers. Society, being codified by man, decrees that women is inferior. She can do away with this inferiority only by destroying the male's superiority. She sets about mutilating, dominating man. She contradicts him. She denies his truth and his value. But in doing this, she is only defending herself. It was neither a changeless essence nor a mistaken choice that doomed her to eminence, to inferiority. They were imposed upon her. All oppression creates a state of war, and this is no exception. The exist who is regarded as inessential cannot fail to demand the reestablishment of her sovereignty. Hey, do you know what that means? I'm going to give you a hint. Nobody does. She's a terrible writer. This is a terrible paragraph from a terrible book that is purposely obtuse and obfuscates what it really means. Good thinkers, clear thinkers, write in a clear and intelligible way. You can't read this and be like, oh my God, how brilliant she is. No, this is snobbery taken to the highest level. And yes, it was written in French, and maybe the translations are not as pretty as in the French originally, but it's just ugly writing. That's why I would ban the book. I mean, it's not just because the Catholic Church didn't like it. It's just because I didn't like it. I keep talking about this. We're talking about it because the right wing has, quote unquote, banned a bunch of books in the last few years. Well, this is not true because the right is not interested in banning books and making it so that you're not allowed to read books. The books that we're talking about, there's a couple of them. They have one on this list called Genderqueer, which we said we were going to talk about. And you have Milk and Honey on here. There's another one on here that I can't remember what it is. Oh, This Book is Gay. So these are the books that we're talking about when they say the right wing is banning books. some school boards across the country have removed certain books from libraries. Genderqueer being a good example. They removed genderqueer from some libraries, and everyone said they're banning books. No, my people, that's not what's happening. There's a difference between banning a book and saying we have a limited shelf space in a library. We think we should put different books in there. Genderqueer shouldn't be in a elementary or middle school library. It shouldn't be there. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't read it. Feel free. Read the book if you want. I don't care. What I'm saying is if the library is for the people of a school and the highest age person in that school is 11, then the book shouldn't be in there. Because the same way I wouldn't put a Hustler magazine in the elementary school library, I wouldn't put genderqueer. It deals with topics that children don't need to read about. I don't think that we should have Mein Kampf in the elementary school library. If you want to read it as an adult, feel free. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but we shouldn't put it in the elementary school library. We shouldn't put genderqueer in there because it does have sexually explicit stuff in there that you don't need an 8-year-old to be reading. That isn't a ban on the book. That's saying, why would you want to show that to children, you big pervert? That's a weird thing to do. What's wrong with you? I'm not trying to ban a book. If you want to have your 8-year-old read it, that's fine. But put it in the public school library is a different thing. Do we think all the parents of all the children want them to read, I don't know, passages? Let's see if we can just find one real quick. Let's see if we can find one. How about this? Let's see. If we can find. Oh, I don't know if we'll find any good ones in here. Maybe. I saw one earlier that I was thinking about, but no, I'm not going to be able to pull it up now. Darn it. I should have pulled it up earlier. Do we want them to read passages about, oh my gosh, you don't taste your own vaginal secretions? Because that's in here. Do we want them to be thinking about, do we need an 8-year-old to be thinking, oh my gosh, you've never fingered yourself, which is in this book? I don't think we need to be showing that to an 8-year-old. What do you guys think? I don't think that. That's just me. Do we want them to talk about sex? Do we want them to be talking about anal sex in here? Or the fact that, oh, you got a new strap on and I can't wait to use it on you? Do I need my 8-year-old to read that? Is that something that you think is appropriate for children? It's not a ban, guys. To say like, oh my gosh, genderqueer has been banned. This one, oh, look at this. 4,000 titles were banned in the school year. And it lists genderqueer as the number one. Yeah, guys, because we shouldn't be putting it in an elementary school classroom. That's not a ban, you fools. That's not what we're talking about. It's just silly. And I don't like that we're equating genderqueer with the satanic verses. Nobody is threatening this author. Nobody is saying that you're not allowed to read the book. We don't want to ban it in America. To say we shouldn't put it in a public school library for children is not a ban. It's about what's appropriate for children. And there's just no way around it. It's silly. And this whole idea, this whole library is silly. It just makes Dua Lipa look funny. I mean, listen, I'm going to give her a piece of advice. Just continue to be one of the most attractive women in the world, and don't feel the need to venture into making political stands. It's fine. It's fine to just be a pop star and make little pop music and, be pretty. That's that's fine. You don't need to also maybe she's a big reader. I don't actually know. She might be, which is great. She should be. I didn't realize Albania had it like that. I'm gonna be honest. Albania is doing it right with Dua Lipa. What the best export you could have from that country. Make your country look good. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I just want to say, this is not really a topic I want to get into, but Lindsey Graham died this week, and it's a sad fact. This guy served the military for a long, long time. He served the Senate for a long, long time. Just a man who loved his country. And the amount of people who have been actively celebrating his death, it's just gross. Again, there are certain people in the world whose deaths I will celebrate. When Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was killed, I'll celebrate his death. That's great. When the Ayatollah dies, hey, great. He's a bad person, mass murderer, absolute psychopath. I have nothing good to say. When Kim Jong-un dies, I'm going to celebrate. when Mao dies, or when Mao's dead, guys. Sorry, you see where my mind went. When oh my gosh, now I can only think of Mao. When Xi dies in China, I'll probably celebrate. These are bad men. Putin's bad man. Lindsey Graham, I'm sorry. If you think because you'll say something like, well, he's a warmonger. Lindsey Graham, he mouth dripped with the blood of babes. You're missing it, man. I'm sorry. You're just off the mark here. If you think Lindsey Graham's a psychopath who wanted anyone innocent in this world to die, you're just mistaken. He wouldn't kill innocent people. There's a difference between going to war and fighting for your country against bad people. There's a difference between war and mass murder. And he's just not a mass murderer. We don't celebrate. You're equating him like you couldn't celebrate any harder if Charles Manson died than you did when Lindsey Graham died. You're doing it wrong. I'm not going to be happy when Joe Biden died. Joe Biden's a terrible president. I think he's bad for politics, but I'm not going to be happy when he dies. I'm not going to celebrate that. It's just a gross, ugly thing. We read the poem last week. Don't celebrate the death of any man because every man's death diminishes me, right? Because you are not an island unto yourself. We read the poem last week. Don't forget the message. Every man's death is a tragedy. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Lindsey Graham, rest in peace. And everyone else, you be safe out there. Take care till next Friday, and I'll catch you on the next episode. As always, I'm Tyler Chrestman. This has been the Chrestman Conversation.